Hello and good afternoon. Welcome. It is In Conversation with Alan. It's a very good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us today. And I am really excited about our guest today. And we are going to be talking to Su Carty. So without further ado, I think it's time to roll the credits and let's get this show underway. Hello, good afternoon to you. It's Alan Hennessy here from Compass Media, social media, digital marketing consultant. And we are here as usual with our series of In Conversation with. And my guest today is the wonderful Su Carty. I had the pleasure of meeting her last year and got to know her, and we decided that we would get her to come on our LinkedIn live show here, and we do hope you are going to enjoy the conversation that we have. So just to give you a little bit of a background about Su, Su is a leader in performance and well-being. She creates new futures and setting new trends for women in business and also in sport as well. She has recently been appointed as a World Rugby Council member, and she also has a program where she takes businesses in 3 simple phases, and notice the way we say phases on that one, from torture to title. Which she really is, her main focus is mental health and well-being is at the heart of what she does, and she is also a director of the recently launched Ohana Zero Suicide Initiative, and we are going to be finding out all about that. So without further ado, let me invite my wonderful guest up onto the stage. There you are. Hi, Su.
There I am. Hi, Alan. Good to see you. Hi, everyone. Very good. Thanks for that introduction.
Switch views here. That's a little bit better.
Sure.
Gives us a little bit more context. How are you today?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of snow sprinkling around the place. A little bit chilly, but it's a little bit of a change of scene is always good, right?
Well, you look, at the end of the day, it's always nice to see the snow. It's nice to look at it from the outside, look at it from the inside out, you know. And I think a lot of people are doing that at the moment where there's a lot of indoor activity going on, and unfortunately, but look, at the same token, we can get out and we can go for a little walking and whatever. So it's always nice. And I think everyone loves to see a little bit of change in weather. It's sort of a break from the norm, if nothing else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So before we get stuck into our chosen topic today, I think if you can give us a little bit of a background about yourself first. I know a lot of people will know of you, and if they don't, I'd be very surprised at this stage. But for anyone who doesn't, maybe you might give us a little bit of background on yourself.
I love your expectation. Thanks, Alan. Yeah, of course. Happy to. So I'm from Roscommon. I'm here in the sitting room in Roscommon, which is like many others, my new office over the last number of months. So I've grown up here, but I started my career as a psychiatric nurse, and I specialized in child and adolescent mental health, and my master's is in cognitive behavioral therapy. And I loved all of that work. I loved that whole area. But an unlikely journey in rugby opened up. I was having coffee with a girl in James's Hospital who said to me, "Oh, you're into sport. Do you want to try rugby?" And I was like, "Well, sure, we'll try anything." And honestly, like I will never forget that first training session. I met the nicest people, the most welcoming, and like I was just hooked from there. And got very involved in rugby after a couple of years in terms of the committee side of it, and progressing the women's game. So I went on to be president of women's rugby in Ireland and led the integration of the women's union into the IRFU, which was amazing. And I suppose that opened up a role. I was appointed the women's development manager with World Rugby. So that's where I veered off what was my definite career path into rugby. But that whole training and start has definitely stood to me through that whole career as well. So I worked with World Rugby up to about 5 years ago, and I finished up with them, and then I looked at what I would do next. And after a couple of conversations and invited to do a project actually with the company. And I'll never forget what the manager in that company said to me. She said, look, we have a really great team, but we don't want to flog them like horses. But we know we can up it a level. So they asked me to do a piece of work with them to support them with that. And look, I just loved it. It was fantastic. The response was really great. And really that conversation started a whole new career in business. And look, I've stayed very close to rugby. I mean, I've played for years. I referee. I'm really missing the pitch at the moment, like I'm sure many others in your various sports. So really missing that at the minute, and walks with the dog doesn't quite cut it. But anyway, it's also great to have. But I got very much involved in supporting the IRFU since bring the women's game in Ireland to the next level, and led the strategic review with them, launched a new strategic plan, got increased investment, and inside that, I was appointed to World Rugby Council. So there's a couple of things keeping me busy at the minute, between a little bit of business by Zoom, and a few committees, and focusing on moving the women's game to the next level. And that's a bit about me.
Wow, a bit. I don't know where you get time to sleep, to be honest. But I do, and I do think it's so important. It's such a fantastic career you've had so far. So, and like, it seems to be going from strength to strength. And the one thing that I always that's always sort of struck me with you is it's that calmness, and it's that that surrounds you. What really is, I love that. I just think it's fantastic. But I do believe that, like, I look at what you've done, and all the areas that you've, I suppose, explored and then you've branched into, which is amazing, because I think that we are very, very much creatures of habit, where we'll sort of stick excuse me, when we sort of stick at what we're good at, and we say, oh yeah, but I think you have sort of expanded the reach and then developed it, and and there's so much great work that you've done over the last number of years, and you continue to do as well. And I know you were saying about the rugby, and you do miss it. I think we all do. I was watching the game on Saturday, and like that, I was just sort of saying, look at the stadium, it's just empty. There's nobody there. You think of all the, over the years of how rugby has really come into. I know it's always been there. Like, look, I'm not saying that it hasn't, but it's really sort of taken center stage. And as well as that, I suppose the women's rugby as well is a huge part of what it is. I know I worked for a number of years in Lansdowne Road, and I'm going back to the times when there was the Keith Woods of the world were on the pitch and whatever. But like, they were always developing the women's rugby. So I'd see where you've really embrace that and stuff as well with that. But I do want to talk about the your torture to title, your program that you run, where you take businesses. And I love this 3 simple phases, and there's always sort of a little bit of a I suppose the connotation and the little
no one people in the rugby link, and people enjoy that. Look, to be honest, like many others that started in business, I spent the first, I don't know, maybe 18 months or so, where I was like, involved in everything, like after everything. It's like, if it was sport, I should be there. But when I was there in sport, I should be over here in business. I should be there with mental health and well-being. And I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs see themselves in that. But there was a moment in it where I got really settled in, well, actually, what can I provide that really makes the difference? And that's where the program, taking you from torture to title, emerged. And it's that sense when you have a team, or you're in a team, and it's just not clicking. Maybe the performance just isn't quite there, or maybe there's a little bit of conflict. There's just something that's not quite right. And right now, in the context we are right now, like, we're remote, it's it's so much more challenging for so many. And it's like that sense, how do we actually take off? How do we bring our performance to the next level? And I suppose, like, what I do and what I really enjoy is getting connected with the team, like what's happening, where are you at, and what are you looking to achieve? What is that title that you're playing for? And sometimes in business we get so busy, doing what we need to do and get done, we get a little bit removed from actually what it's all about. What are we up to? What are we ultimately trying to achieve here? So we get a sense of that, and the whole team get connected with what that is, because you want the whole team playing for the same title, right? Otherwise, it goes a bit funny, and it might sound funny to say, but we're not always all on the same page. So we do like work around that and get that settled, and it really makes a difference. And then the idea, in that phases is like, you don't get from try line to try line in one swoop. And look, it'd be a really boring game if you did, right? If we were watching on Sunday and there would be nothing to watch. There'd be no challenge. There would be no engagement. And sometimes we embrace challenges like they're frustrating, they're annoying, and we wish we didn't have them. But when you embrace them as the opportunity, it's the opportunity to get reset, sort yourself out, go again, a new call, a new plan, be innovative. The challenges can actually be exciting. And that begins to shift our whole relationship to what we're up to in business. And that's basically what I provide.
Yeah, and I think it's so true. Like and it's something that I just picked up on what you said there is like, as you say, it's all about, oh, well, what are we going to do, and how am I going to get there, and how am I? Whereas the bigger picture is what is the organization, what is the businesses, what is it that we want to achieve? What is it, and I was only on a call last night and we were talking about something similar to this, and I was saying, it's what problem do you solve? But in order for me to solve a problem, I need help from others. And I think when we collectively come together, I think it really does. It enhances the whole experience, and it also helps us to achieve what we need to do. Because as you say, if it's just a straight run to the goal, as you were saying, or the try line, or whatever it may be,
yeah,
it can be extremely just like, all right, well, that's great, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think as well as that, when we challenge ourselves, I think it makes us a better person as well. I think that's so important as well.
Absolutely. You only discover what you're made of when you're challenged. And like, but in the context of what we're living through right now, like, we've never had a pandemic, certainly not in our lifetime. And when looking at what you want to achieve, what you're striving for, it's so important to come from, what, I'm great to be where I am right here today. Regardless of what the result is so far, you can, call a half time, right? Where am I at? But you want to come from acknowledging, what, there's no way we could be prepared for this, and how we've pulled ourselves together, stepped into it, embraced the challenge, and whatever we've accomplished, like that is pretty great. And then you can look at the performance and like, okay, so from a performance perspective, what can we now bring that will make the difference? And that's a perfect conversation to have, but it's a much different one to, blame or putting yourself down, or that other type of conversation that takes you out into somewhere else, and that doesn't serve you and doesn't serve the team around you.
Yeah, and it is. And I think it's really, like, especially with the pandemic, I've noticed there's a huge shift in a lot of people in what they do, but they're also, and maybe it's just an Irish thing, or maybe it's worldwide. I don't know offhand, but I know we always say, sure, look, I'd be grand, and whatever, and we don't give ourselves time as much as anything else to take stock and say, well, look at all of I've achieved, or look at how I've helped to improve this situation, or this, this particular project, or whatever it may be that we're doing. That I think we don't do that enough for ourselves. And I think that also gets in our heads, and it's sort of, we have this, I suppose it impacts on our well-being as much as anything else.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Yeah, it brings it down. And it totally. And I think for each other, if you're noticing people around you aren't doing it for themselves, you can interrupt them.
Yeah.
Why not? You might just make a difference to their whole day and more.
Yeah, yeah, it is. As I always say, it's that helping someone today can be something that can be phenomenal tomorrow for them, and or even in the moment as well. And I think that's so important is that we do reach out and we do help each other, and or even give each other a pat on the back. Like, because I often see it on social media where someone will say, "Oh, I've just done this," and I'd be the first one to say, "Congratulations, well done." That's brilliant achievement. And I think
Yeah.
that's very important because it gives people a boost, and it helps. It means that they can sort of go, right, okay, yeah, I am doing something right. Let's call
Yeah,
it
big
a
time.
spade and let's be very straight about it, because I think that's what a lot of people does. A lot of people don't do. You know.
Yeah, and the other thing is when you start from there, being straight then in terms of, well, actually, so where do we need to look to improve the performance?
Mm,
Because you don't want to be happy, clappy, and a bit false about it either. But when you're, straight up acknowledging where you're coming from, and what you have achieved, you can then go, right, okay, so what next, and what can I bring, and be, within the team dynamic, be straight with each other within the team. And look, there's definitely times, particularly during this period when it's already challenging, that conversations around performance, particularly where you're looking to up the performance in such challenging environments and circumstances, is really tricky.
mm,
And you want to have them, because otherwise there's something unsaid, and not addressed, and that has its own impact, if not immediately, down the road.
mm.
So you certainly want to do it, but you want to come from moving it forward, come from that acknowledgement, and there's an opening there to have a straight conversation,
Yeah,
and have it.
yeah, and I think that in itself helps, because what it does is you say now, like, you're sort of sitting in the present, you say, okay, look at all I've done. Now, how can I further improve on this, or how can we build on as you say, the performance of it? How can we actually start really focusing and moving this to the next level? And it's
Exactly.
only then that you start to see things. You say, okay, well, there's a lot more opportunity here to do this. And like an example would
Absolutely.
be is I started doing the podcast. I was doing
Yeah.
it for me. But then I had people who were coming to me and saying, Alan, I'd love to learn more about podcasting. So of course I go, okay, that's where I've been. This is where I am now. Okay, so now let me help people and let me create something that's more me. So it's moving it on to the next phase. We have some
Brilliant.
people that are jumping in. I just wanted to make sure that we say hello. Russ Hedge is in, all the
Hi,
way
Ross.
from Salem in Oregon. He's in. Joanne Callahan has jumped in as well. She says, hi, Sue. How are you?
Hi, Joanne.
She also added a comment there that she says, yes, distractions take us away from being responsible and taking action. So very good. Also, Wendy Stunt is in, another good friend of ours. And also Michael Rafter is in. He came in and he says, totally agree with what you're saying, Alan. Thanks very much for that. So we have a lot of people in watching as well. And if you're watching this, guys, on the replay, please do let us know where that you are watching on the replay, or if you're watching it live, tell us where you are actually watching from. We always are interested. I know we have, as Russ is in Salem, he's in Oregon in the States, so it's great to see. I wanted to talk about. Um, I know you really at the heart of what you do is
Mm.
mental health and well-being, and obviously we've sort of touched on it with performance and business and sports and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot of people that I think, and I don't think we've ever been in such a place where we have literally been sitting and everyone is in the same boat with regards to this pandemic. It's like, I said it a couple of weeks back. I don't know whether it was on this show or another show, that it's like as though there was a blanket just thrown over the world and everyone is under this blanket and everyone is in this. And
Yeah.
everyone has their own coping mechanisms of how they're going to get on. But I know mental health and especially well-being is a huge part of what you focus on. What would be some of the advice that you would give to people around this?
Yeah, it's great, Alan, and it's a very interesting way to look at it in terms of that blanket over all of us, and we're all under it. There's a real sense of that for sure. And I suppose I would have a rule of thumb, not just in this time, but maybe particularly in this time, is like you want to like start with taking care of yourself and taking care of each other. It's like, when link back to sport and rugby a lot. I mean, there's no performance if the players aren't looked after. If they're not looked after mentally and physically. And it's no different for us in life and in business. So I would start with, taking care of yourself, like the basics. And it's funny how we often skip over the basics. We think we are until you stop and look, well, actually, what are the little things I do for myself that make a difference? So I experience being taken care of, and then just look at it for yourself. I think like there's loads of different advice out there. People will say, have your routine and your diet and your sleep. Like everyone knows the basics, but I think the thing I would throw in is just ask yourself that question every now and again. Am I taken care of? Am I giving myself time to do something a little bit different from time to time? Like, when was the last time I did something for the first time, or for the first time in a long time? And I think that's a great question. It just gives you an inquiry into. And I know it's very easy to say, well, sure, there's nothing we can do now because there's so little we can do. So it does kind of call on us to think outside the box a little bit, and what are the different things we can do even now with everything being limited. So they would be some of the questions that I would encourage people to ask themselves. And when you do that, then you can look up and out. Like, it's that old comparison of, you're in the airplane and you're getting the instruction, you put the oxygen on yourself first, and then you're in a position to support whoever needs the support around you. And I think it's just a great principle in life, right? When you're taken care of, you have the capacity then. And I would say this particularly for people who are leading teams, like managers, business owners, directors. It's like, just take the extra time to look at yourself, because you having that space so that people can approach you, so your team can actually approach you when things are tough or whatever, makes a big difference. And then then you have the room for people to come to you. And when you're looked after yourself, you can look up and out. So how are those around you? How are the people in your team? You have the space to get interested and curious. And then you'll also notice little things like, they've been late for the last while. They're not usually late. Or normally when we're on a call, they're full of beans. They've been a bit quiet this time. Or you just begin to notice, and there ways in for you to make a difference then for each other. So they would be some of the places I would start to look, and some of the questions I think that would just be helpful for people to tune into.
Yeah, and I think it's very important. I know there was a couple of weeks back there where I just felt like I was in this office on this computer 24/7 every day. It was just blah 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 blah, and I could feel, I suppose if you want to put it into a visual type of thing, and people know I'm very visual, is like I just felt like my head was just bursting type of thing.
Yeah.
And it was like that. I just said to myself, right, you need to get up, you need to get out, you need to go for a walk every day. Just 15 minutes, just get away, just get up. And I did that. And what it done is it made me a lot more calmer. It helped me a lot more. I wrote a lot of stuff down. But then I was talking to someone else, and they were saying, oh, it's just, and I said, well, just do what I did. Just get out and have a little walk. And they did. And they came back and they said, well, and since then that has passed on to about 5 or 6 other people. And it was just like a simple step. But as you say, it gave me the opportunity to be able to pass on that to someone else and to help someone else. I read an article there, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, where they were talking about back in March when the pandemic struck, that a lot of businesses were sort of working from home and they had home offices, and that there was one particular, they spoke about this particular company, and they talked about a particular manager, and what he was doing was, is in the office he was very, this has to be done, this has to be done, very, you have to meet these targets. But then when they started working from home, he started actually to connect with the people, because he was looking out for them, that type of thing. But when they went back to the office, when obviously in the last, when sort of the lockdown was sort of stopped, or whatever, it was eased off, I went back to the office, and they said he was a totally different person to what he had been prior to it, because I think he started seeing the changes, and as well as that, there was a huge amount of productivity, and that's really what they were talking about. The productivity rose because there was a change in attitude, a change in the way people done things, and I think it's helped a lot. Like, I know this virus is a terrible thing, and it's had detrimental effects in so many people's lives. But I also think there's a lot of good has come out of it, because we're able to now sort of stand back from it and take that little time, and it's given us a sort of an eye opener to sort of the world stop and saying, hold on here, let's jump off for a minute and stand back from this. So
yeah, totally. And look, when you take a different action, when you do something different, there's a shift in energy. One of the things I did recently that was really, a little bit outside the comfort zone, but great, with the fabulous girl Clodagh, who was Simply Sing. Like, I did this singing workshop. Now, I'm not looking to be a solo artist by any stretch of the imagination, and please don't ask me to sing. But but the experience of it was just fabulous. There was a discovery of new confidence. It was like going, oh wow, okay, and it was just different. And so I just find myself from time to time going, okay, so what can I just put myself into that will challenge me like a bit, and at the same time be, a new experience, and that shift in energy. And it does require a bit of thinking outside the box during these pandemic times. And look, it might be as simple as go a different direction for a walk, or it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be soul searching or anything like that. It might be like some different music that you want to listen to. It might be having a crack at an instrument that you've been thinking about for a while, and maybe you want to give that a go. It might be like so many different things, but give something a go that you haven't done in a while, or you've never done, and give and see what opens up for you.
Yeah, and as you're talking now, I'm just saying, Michael put up a comment. He says, I know scrolling is not encouraged, but it feels so good to get lost in TikTok or YouTube videos. Feels like a release. So, and I think it's different strokes for different folks, and I think it's so important. I do want to touch on, you've recently become a director, or you are a director of the recently launched Ohana Zero Suicide Initiative, and I think this is such an important subject, and I would like to get you to come back on and we talk about this in a lot more detail. But if you could just tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's very important at the moment.
Yeah, sure. Look, mental health
all the time. Sorry, but
yeah, no, of course it's important all the time, but there's more focus on it now for sure, Alan. And I think like making a difference around mental health is something that has always been pretty important to me. But I went back as a psychiatric nurse during the initial lockdown, and I was really like, I'm going to do something more in this whole area. And a couple of conversations led to this fantastic team. Where we got together, we did some research, and we launched the Ohana Zero Suicide Training in December. And the response has been incredible. But in a nutshell, pop on to Ohana, ohana.ie. There's a link there. Just click the link for the training. It's free. It takes between 20 and 40 minutes to complete. And very simply, it supports you to have a conversation with someone that you might be worried about, or acting that, like we said earlier, like a little bit off, or something doesn't seem quite right. But sometimes we're not sure how to approach the conversation or what to say. So this training gives you that sense of where to start, the right language to use, particularly if you are concerned that they may be having thoughts in that way. And you'll come away with that sense of confidence to manage those conversations and ultimately to get that person to the help that they need. And the resources and all of that are on the website as well. So ohana.ie. And actually, timing's beautiful, Alan, as timing often tends to be. Yesterday, we launched the corporate awards. So we're really, like, we've had a huge response to this. It has been incredible, totally blown away. It's been one of the most inspiring things I've ever had the pleasure of being part of. We've had a huge response from sporting clubs. It's like right across the country. So this is the turn of companies and with the corporate awards. And it's really inspiring you to have your colleagues and have your staff complete the training. So if you inspire 50% or more, you get our gold award. 75% or more, you get the platinum award. So pop onto our website, click in and pop us an email if you'd like more details about that. And we keep people updated through our LinkedIn as well. So it's Ohana Zero Suicide is the initiative, and ohana.ie is the website.
Brilliant stuff. And as you said, you know, it's so important, and it really, really is. Like, I know I've looked at it, and I actually am planning on doing the training course today, because I think it's also very good for ourselves, because it means that we have a lot more awareness now, and it helps. You know what I mean? And you know, we've all been touched by suicide in some shape or form, whether it be friends, family, you know, whatever it may be. It's there, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important. It's so important to be able to have something like this, and you know, it is a fantastic initiative, absolutely. And you know, full round of applause and claps. And there's so many people are agreeing with it as well. Even Joanne says, I interviewed Angela Collins Driver, who is part of Sue's Ohana team, also incredibly powerful people. So you know, there's a lot of, it's built a lot of awareness, and it's sort of brought it to the forefront of what we're doing here as well.
Yeah, and crucially, we're great to give advice around talk to someone, which is great, and absolutely I encourage any, you know, we reach out to each other and talk, but let's also take the burden off people, that we're ready to listen and that we can invite them to talk to us if we hear that that's what's required.
Yeah, it is. It's brilliant. I could sit here and talk to you all day about this. I really could. I really enjoy. I always really enjoy talking to you. How can people reach out and connect with you if they want to get in contact with you?
Oh, fantastic. So Su Carty and Carty Sue. So it's Carty Sue on Twitter. SuCarty.com is the website. Sue@SuCarty.com is my email address. Oh, the website will be live again very shortly, but you can hit the contact button on it at the moment. That's just getting some additional new exciting looking feel to it as well. So look forward to that being complete, and a fantastic lady Lucy is doing that for me. So watch this space. But yeah, Sue@SuCarty.com, Carty Sue on Twitter, and the LinkedIn Sue-Carty at the end there will get to me here as well.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Well, Sue, as I always say, it's a pleasure to sit and chat with you. And thanks so much for coming on today and sharing so much fabulous advice and, you know, tips, and also just being such an inspiration to everyone. You are a shining light. That's all I can say. And thank you so much for taking the time. We wish you continued success in the future. And we definitely will be getting you back on, and we'll be talking more about the Zero Suicide initiative as well. So I think that's very important. And of course, we will put all your details up in the chat as well. So thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Alan. It's been great. Okay. Love chatting with you too.
So we shall talk to you soon. I'm going to just jump over here now, and I have to. this is the only thing when you're running your own show, you have to sort of go, okay, right, try and get right screens back, right screen. So there you go. Okay, now hopefully this should work when I click back in. Now, there we go. So there we go. Thanks so much to Sue for coming on and chatting with us today. Hopefully you learned something today that's helped you and helped you in your business or helped you in your own personal life and your mental health and also well-being. So guys, thanks so much. Next week's show, we have the wonderful Mr. Jim Fuse is going to be on with us from Fusion Marketing. We're going to be talking all about live streaming and loads of other great stuff that's going on. So do check us out. We will be at the later time of 4 o'clock next week, as Jim is coming to us from Atlanta in the States. So it's a little bit later for them. So guys, as I said, thanks so much for joining us. If you have got any questions, queries, or you would be interested in coming on and chatting with us on the show, we would love to hear from you. You can get in contact with me at alan@compassmedia.ie, and you can also jump onto the website at compassmedia.ie, and also connect with me across all of the social networks, and make sure that you let me know that you have been watching our In Conversation. So until next week, stay safe and stay happy, and we shall talk to you next week, and be mindful of each other. Until next time, be social. Bye-bye.